Hello there beautiful, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? My name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now I know what you're thinking, this one's a bit late this week, but let me tell you, I've been going through it these past few days and I'm very lucky that I'm able to release this video at all because you may have seen on my social media that my computer completely bricked while I was trying to install, or friends of mine were trying to install, a new processor on my computer, and things just went horribly wrong. But we're okay now, we're back live, everything is working again, and about £500 and a lot of stress and desperation later, we're back on stream and back on video and all that good stuff. So if you'd like to learn more about Snow, Lyse, Emperor and Balthier and their C90 upgrades and new weapons, then as always stay tuned and keep on watching. Okay, as always, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. Over on Twitch I am still streaming despite everything that's happened in the last couple of days. I did stream despite the fact that I was very stressed out, so I hope that didn't come across too heavily, but when it's one's livelihood, the question becomes, do you cancel streams because you're not feeling your best? Or do you muscle through and try and do it anyway and lean on your audience in order to try and fight through that kind of thing? And it's a question that I always ask myself and I think, oh God, I hope I've done the right thing. But hopefully, now that everything's gotten better, we don't have to stress about it quite as much as we were beforehand. But yes, as I said, everything is all back to normal now. FF14, Dissidia, all that good stuff, all going to be over on Twitch. Over on Patreon, which I am honestly more thankful for now than ever, because obviously people who support my channel in the various ways in which they do mean everything to me, and the fact that I've been able to continue with what I'm able to do on this platform despite the fact that roadblocks come in all sorts of shapes and sizes is very much down to you guys over on Patreon who support this channel every month, and I'm very grateful to you all for doing so. And obviously if you're interested in joining up with my Patreon, all of that's in the links in the description box below. You get so many benefits from it nowadays: voice chats, private streams, title cards that I make, and hand-drawn ones at higher tiers, all sorts of different things. And I do also shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, and today that person is going to be Kuran, who is a dear friend of mine as well as being one of my patrons, and a much love goes out to you. And Ishtola, as of 6.1, if you know this cutscene, you'll know what I'm looking at, so it's lovely to have made that title card for you. And of course, don't forget to check out all of the other content creators and resources out there for Dissidia or Opera Omnia, similar to the ones that I use on this channel, because they all deserve your love just as much as anybody else. Okay, so because I'm a little bit later on this video than I would like to have been, I'm going to try and go through this stuff as quickly as I can in the interest of getting this video up as soon as I can. But once again, I will remind everybody that I did recently do a very large video on future pulls for FR era that does cover some of the stuff that we talk about in this video. So if you want a more general sense of the kinds of things to expect going forward, then maybe take a look at that particular video, because it's one that I expect that people will want to check back in on fairly frequently. Now, to start with, we're going to talk about the first banner that we're going to talk of, one of two today, which is going to contain Balthier and his LD returns, and then we're going to see Emperor come back with all of his kit, including his BT, which I missed the first time, and I'm still not over it. Now, Balthier, in particular, doesn't get a huge amount out of this. Like, he gets some extra HP dumps on his Tides of Fate LD, and of course his EX as well, and that's pretty much it, to be honest. Like, he gets, like, he starts with the buffs that he gets from his EX and his LD, so he's able to get to his maximum stacks quicker, and it's pretty much all there is. And that's fine for Balthier, because he's one of these characters that has a niche that he works really well in, and that's pretty much all there is to say when it comes to Balthier. Emperor, on the other hand, when we look at Emperor, and a big shout out, of course, to Leo Bob for their translations here as well, Emperor, when you listen to it, doesn't sound like he gets a huge amount, but what he does get is a absolute crap ton of damage. So, Beckoning Blast gets 3 HP dumps, Thunder Crest gets 2 HP dumps, and obviously is its AoE attack. His LD gets extra HP dumps as well, as does his EX as well, but more importantly, all of the traps that he lays also get additional HP dumps. And these all add up, because when you use his LD or his HP plus, or any of that stuff really, you're going to be triggering those traps repeatedly. And when you're triggering the 3 traps, so his EX Dreary Cell, his skill 1 Beckoning Blast, and his skill 2 Thunder Crest, they all add up to a very large number of HP dumps with a lot of bravery gains in between. He does actually start with his LD buff as well, which allows him to trigger all of his traps without expiring them quite easily, so you can use that to your advantage as well. His HP plus will do this, and he gets delay off of his EX trap as well, so that will still come into play as well, particularly during his burst phase. So you're looking at, given that Dreary Cell and Starfall itself is 3 HP dumps and you get the 3 traps after it, that's 9 HP dumps without batting an eyelid, and that is a lot of damage across the board. That also delays and debuffs. Now, is Emperor a perfect character without his BT? Absolutely not. But what his BT does do is it enables him to have another trap that will trigger eventually. He doesn't have max Brave cap up, which is kinda sad, but there has to be something that's wrong with Emperor. Because the things that you can do with him when you pair him with the right characters, like Rem, or I see people use Enacro with him. This is the origin of the meme runs with Enacro, in fact, is because when his EX goes on multiple times during his burst phase, it's heavy. It's really heavy. But you are going to want to build for him. If you're going to use Emperor BT, give him an Ultima weapon. Luckily, because Garnet was a thing earlier on, a lot of people already have the staff weapon for Ultima, and therefore it will just slot very nicely onto Emperor, and he'll do crazy amounts of damage in very short spaces of time. And the fact that he does have his burst attack go off twice does make a big difference to him, because he gets little bits of like extra bravery damage, brave cap up. He recovers bravery after each of his HP attacks, which is great of like between his traps, etc. But you primarily just want the burst phase when it comes to Emperor, because you can do so much damage within it. So now, of course, we have a second banner to talk about here that has new stuff on it entirely, and this one is going to contain Leon returning with his EX, Lyse and her brand new LD, as well as the rest of her kit, and then Snow, his returning LD, and his brand new BT as well. So we'll talk about Lyse first. And the reason I want to talk about Lyse first is because I know there are a lot of players that really love Lyse and really want her to be good. Every time I read her kit, she seems to me like the most colossally boring character this game has to offer, which is a real disservice to FF14 fans, and I'm not very happy about it. So, basically, Lyse has battery, you know, generic party buffs, things like that, and does some damage. She does have a very powerful EX attack, because it has 7 HP dumps in it, which is quite a lot, certainly for an EX attack as well, and then just generally gets more HP dumps on her regular skills. She gets free skills, like she's always had free skills on Riddler Fire, but now she gets 4 HP dumps on Fire Tackle, and she gets 3 on Elixir Field, and you get some battery out of it, and more skill uses as well. Her LD, it's okay. It's 5 HP dumps, which is nice. Like, she does churn out damage very well. And she gets a party buff, which reduces the amount of damage that you take and increase the amount of damage that your party deals. It's kind of it. Now, later on, when Dorgan comes out, she gets much nicer benefits, like party-wide last stand. And that's a story for a different day, if you will. And if you're not interested in pulling for Dorgan, then maybe you might want to consider picking up Lyse now, so that you have that when that comes available. But looking at things right now, it's not that Lyse is bad, because she does a good amount of damage. Like I said, 7 HP dumps on that Forbidden Chakra Plus. Very, very nice. But she's a damage dealer without a BT, which is already putting her on a back foot, and her party-wide buffs are fine, but they're not anything spectacular, and I think for that reason, I personally wouldn't recommend Lyse. There are players out there that have done very good things with her, but it's not that she's bad that makes me put off by her, it's the fact that she's kind of dull. Snow, on the other hand, has some very interesting mechanics that come with his BT. He doesn't actually get an awful lot from his LD board. Or his rework. His LD board gives him more HP damage on the actual attack itself, and his Retribution attack, which is his like follow-up attack from either using his LD or being attacked does more bravery damage, and that's pretty much all there is to say about that. But his EX gets a large number of HP dumps and recovers skill uses to Frost Strike, which is nice, so that's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's the BT that is really interesting when it comes to Snow. So where Zack's BT effect was all about survivability, Snow's is all about combo potential. And I prefer that on a personal level, but obviously some people who already have Zack have a tank with a BT, so they're not necessarily going to be gunning for this. So the first thing that you'll notice is that you get max brave damage, cap up and bravery damage. Once again, no maximum bravery cap, so no additional limit breaking on HP damage, which is kind of sad. Enchant Ice, which is good, and the reason for that is because going forward into Shinryu era, Cam Lenore wants to be with somebody that enchants Ice. Now, most people will probably use Kurasame Call for this, as many people do. Not everyone has Kurasame Call. They may have started later than Kurasame had come out playing the game, or they want to use somebody with a BT effect that has additional purposes, like Snow, and he does still keep the party very well protected. He's got decent healing, he's got good damage protection, and he does do a decent amount of damage with his retribution attacks and all the other stuff that comes with his existing kit. The key thing here is on each HP attack, recovers bravery based on 50% of total HP damage dealt. So basically, the way to look at this is, let's say Tifa. Tifa's Meteor Crusher LD attack has this effect by standard. So on every HP attack, you would recover bravery equal to the damage you dealt to then make the next part of that attack bigger. This applies that to everyone's attacks. So Cloud, for example, and Gilgamesh do not recover bravery between their bravery hits, so they're a lot more reliant on external means in order to capitalize their bravery damage or brave cap increases, which isn't ideal. And this helps this a great deal. What this doesn't tell you, and I'm not sure if this is a bug or if this will get fixed for the global version, but it was something that a lot of people, and a big shout out actually goes to Nightingale90 for having videos that showcase this kind of thing, is there is a way of extracting Snow's BT effect from other characters' BT attacks so that they retain that max bravery cap. You generally alongside Ishtola, so somebody who has brave gains and brave overflow up, and then a third character that capitalizes on this to allow you to retain the max bravery cap up from the BT attack itself. So that's like 200% increases on brave damage cap, sometimes more than that, and this can be abused very heavily. Is it something that's maintainable for a long period of time? Probably not, because come Shinryu era, you might not use Snow all that frequently unless you're using him for the Enchant Ice and maybe some of the shenanigans as they come about, but it's there, and it's something that I would be remiss to not remark on, even though it's not something I've experienced personally. I've seen a lot of videos from it, and it's very, very scary if implemented in the right way. But I'm not sure if that will translate over to the global version, because it may be considered a bug and maybe just eliminated for Snow's global release. But even without that, I do actually think Snow is very good for at least a couple of months. I want him personally because I do already have the LD, and I think he's going to be very helpful to me during Dimensions and Transcendence 9, which is an event that I'm a little bit worried about because I'm playing Alpha No from now until FR era, and I think he's going to help me out a lot with that. And possibly like the earliest sort of Shinryu missions, I might use him, and then I've seen people who do use him even up until like Sellers' release in JP as well, so he definitely has legs, but he's definitely not quite as plug and play as he first appears. So the fight in which you're going to be taking Snow, Balthier, Lyse, Emperor, all that kind of stuff in, is kind of a unique one, and it's the first of its type that we're going to see in Dissidia Opera Omnia, which is going to be the 6-man fight beta. So, much like it says on the tin, instead of taking 3 characters into a fight, you take 6. So you're taking 2 parties worth, and you can swap in and out from those units at will. So basically you just get a larger variety of things to take along with you, but because of that, you have a lot more things that you need to deal with as well. So with this particular fight, you're going to be fighting the Dimension Shift Frame and the Dimension Mighty Arm. So the Dimension Mighty Arm is the only one of the two that actually has a Lufenia or a Fenrir orb here, and only asks for HP regen. So it's not the most strict orb in the world, but the actual mechanics of the fight are a little bit more complex than that. So the fight starts with the Mighty Arm having an aura that makes it take less damage, and that at certain HP thresholds, it will change its aura to an attack mode, as you can see here, which is a red aura, that also makes it so that you have HP poison. But more importantly, if any of your characters fall below 30% HP at any given time at the end of that turn, the Mighty Arm will kill them instantly. So it's very important for you to be able to take damage and also heal back that damage very quickly. Especially considering that the Dimension Shift frame also has mechanics that involve it taking turns when it shouldn't be able to. After its HP threshold of 80% HP, as is written here, big shout outs by the way to DissidiaCompendium.com for this information as well, then it will change from, it will gain an ability where it will warp turn after every player action, and then on its turn it will then gain loads of bravery and do a big AoE HP attack that inflicts some nasty debuffs such as HP damage taken up, etc. This is obviously where Lyse and Balthier would come into this, and you would use them to mitigate some of those debuffs and make it so that your auras make it so you take less damage. Obviously Snow is very good for this as well, being a tank. And the other thing to bear in mind with the Dimension Shift frame is that it's initially immune to magic and weak to the other two, or to physical damage, but after it's done that AoE attack, it'll then swap so that it's immune to the physical damage but weak to magic damage. So this is again going to play into having 6 members of your team and being able to switch in and out of whatever you need to at the time. Going back to the Dimension Mighty Arm as well, this will also swap back to its blue aura and make it so that it's unable to take damage pretty much at all, and that the only way to get out of that is for you to allow it to deal its next HP attack. Again, quite large, pretty nasty, can't do too much about it, but you need to be able to take that damage, heal back off of it, and then you'll be able to damage it again. There's lots of characters that you can take for this. Obviously, the synergy characters are all going to be very good for this, but Zack is also very strong here as well as a character that can take as much damage as he needs to in order to recover from stuff. You can stack defensive auras through characters like Selfie or Setzer or all sorts of different little bits and pieces like that that allow you to get around those kinds of things. And then you just want to deal a large amount of damage. Like there are clears of this particular content that use all FF2 characters because they all happen to be very good for this. I am obviously going to be bringing Alphino to this, who's actually not bad for it because of the fact that he enables the party to not get broken, and he can heal in a pinch if he needs to, as well as having other characters that accompany all that stuff. Beatrix you could use for this because of her ability to not take HP damage at the times in which you need to. You could just go balls to the wall with damage and try and skip all of the phases entirely by just doing huge amounts of damage. But how you approach this is going to be quite interesting because there's so much wiggle room for you to make a team for yourself, because 6 players is obviously so much greater than 3, that you can kind of approach this at your own pace. Just make sure that you're taking the mechanics into account as with any fight. So now it's time for Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and let everyone know whether you wouldn't pull on a banner and why that might be the case. Now, once again, a massive thank you goes out to all of my patrons, and I'm very grateful to all of you for being patient with me at this very, very trying time moment. I wanted to get this video out as soon as I could, and I obviously replaced all of the parts that were broken. Amazon Prime is an absolute godsend, so I managed to get things working again relatively quickly, but obviously this is a bit late, and I do want to apologise for the lateness in this video, and particularly to my patrons who very kindly posted their votes and their comments and were very patient with me, so thank you for doing that. So going into numbers, Emperor and Balthier's banner, 10% of people said they were going to use gems here, 10% of people said yes please 100 plus tickets, 5% said less than 100 tickets, 48% of people said no because they already had everything, and 29% of people said no because they didn't want anything. I know I said this before, but the temptation to spend tokens on Emperor's BT is very real for me because I love him and I couldn't get him the last time, and I ended up not getting him with tokens last time because I instead went for Varn, which is a decision I don't regret as such, because I really like using Varn, but because I have Varn, I do already have a very strong magic damage dealer. So whether I need Emperor or not is up for debate, because, yeah, Emperor's ceiling is higher, but I already have Varn, and it's not like the content's going to be difficult between now and Shinryu, so I haven't decided what I want to do with Emperor just yet. But when it comes to Snow's banner, I do know what I want to do. But in terms of my patrons' votes, 17% of people said they're going to use gems here, 30% of people said they're going to use 100 or more tickets, 26% of people said they're going to use less than 100 tickets, and 26% of people said no thank you. I am either no tickets or a few tickets, because I already have Snow's LD, and I have no interest in Lyse whatsoever. I don't think that she's bad. I really don't. I think that people who love her will absolutely get a kick out of her. She does a lot more damage. She has defensive support options. There is stuff to like about her. She's also... It doesn't help that I don't particularly like her in 14 either. I kind of miss Ida when she was Ida. But that's kind of my reasoning behind not wanting to pull here, because I would much rather spend my resources on either Raijin's banner or Cisne's banner next week to try and get Snow's BT, because I do really want that. So going into comments, Silverhawk says, the more I think about it, I'm probably going to skip Snow's banner. I already have the rest of his kit, so it's just the BT I'm after, but I'm saving gems for Cisne, so I have a shot at getting it then. Other banners coming up, like Raijin, will be getting tickets, so it's unlikely I'll see Snow's BT before that. But thanks to Joe's Future Pulls video, I also know Snow doesn't have much longevity in Shinryu difficulty, so if I miss the BT, I'll be fine. Emperor banner is a skip because I have his kit already, and I don't really need Balthier. Now, I will say, I didn't say that Snow doesn't have longevity in Shinryu in that video, and if I did, I may have misworded things, because he can. He absolutely can. If you want to carry Snow for a long period of time, you absolutely can do that, but he's not quite as plug and play, and he's just busted as people would lead you to believe. He can be used in a wide variety of content. The fact that he has Ice Enchant means that he does benefit a very powerful FR just out of the box. And the fact that he, you know, there might be ways in which we can abuse the, like, Brave Cap retention from the videos that I've seen. Once again, shout out to Nightingale90 for those videos, really helpful. But it's just that by the time you get to those kinds of characters, you probably don't need Snow. Like, so if you want to carry him, you can, but don't feel you have to pull for him here if you don't want to. Multiracial Lion says I can comfortably skip Emperor and Balthier because I have their kits already, but even if I didn't, I'd probably still pass. Balthier is fine, but very specific about his niche, and while Emperor is very good, I just don't see him being my damage go-to. I'll still blue and green him though out of sheer favoritism, just like I did for JP. As for Snow and Lyse, I'm a little torn. I do plan to pull for Raijin, I'm kind of whatever on Cisne. I'd like Snow's BT, I've already blued him in preparation, but I'm not sure if I'm willing to go all in here to get it for Lyse. Lyse is vastly improved and certainly no longer a mean character, but her jam is a defensive support DPS, which is fine, but not something I need, and she does return later with Dorgan, who is good himself, but gets a few really nice upgrades that make her worth noticing. So I'm not sure how deep, if at all, I want to go for her LD. Maybe 100 tickets, because FF14. It's kind of where I am with it. Like, I really want Dorgan when he comes around, and I don't think I would use Lyse before she gets her better upgrades, so I'd be more than happy to go for her then. But as things are, it's, again, I've said this before, it's not that she's bad, I just think she's colossally dull, and that to me is a fate worse than being bad. At least if they're bad, you can make fun of the fact that they're bad and use them in content to kind of go, yeah, I used a bad character. She's not bad. She's just boring, and I think that's worse. But people who love Lyse, I'm sure will get their use out of her. And then finally, Gemma says, I didn't get Snow's LD when it was last around, and while disappointed, I figured I'd get it the next time it came around. While it's the next time around, and while I happen to like Lyse, even if the game devs don't give her the attention she deserves, still I'm planning to gem this banner for both LDs. If the BT comes on the way, great. If not, Raijin and Cisne are right around the corner, so I'll likely try there too. Fingers crossed. Well, fingers crossed for you too. I wish you the best of luck with those. Can't really say anything more than that, although I will say that everyone is saving up for Raijin and Cisne for a reason. Raijin is probably the most important pull you'll have here in this batch because his LD call is just that good, and he's actually not bad in your main party either, I might add. Cisne is a character that a lot of people really enjoy, and I had put her on my recommended list in my future pulls video, but again, you don't have to pull for her. If you like off-turn damage dealers, yeah, she's a great character to have in your kit, but if you have other places that your resources want to go, there's nothing wrong with that either. So, should you be pulling for these characters? Emperor, Lyse, Snow, Balthier. Emperor's damage can be absolutely gargantuan in the right hands, with probably the best BT phase in the game at this point in time, and last pretty comfortably into early Shinryu era if you build around him correctly. You cannot just throw him in a team though and expect him to go off. You need to be able to actually build around him. The irony with Emperor, given that he is a trap-based character, is that you don't actually want his traps to go off as traps. You want him to be able to trigger them so that he triggers them without them expiring through his HP+++ or his LD, etc. Or at least be able to replace them using the skill versions. His EX, still fantastic. It's really fantastic because Dreary Cell has delay in it, which means that for every time you're proccing one of his, all of his traps, you're getting delay at the same time, which is fantastic. You start throwing in selfies, all the little bits and pieces, Leos, all of that stuff, you get a lot of damage. But you don't want it so that Emperor can't capitalize on his traps by letting the enemy trigger them before he does. So characters like Rem are going to be very good for him. Quistis is very good for him. Anyone that can make it so that he gets multiple turns, because he's not the fastest character in the world, and he doesn't carry HP cap up in his burst naturally, which means you're going to want to give it to him through other means. An Ultima weapon and his party mates. Luckily, we had Garnet, so a lot of people, myself included, have a staff Ultima weapon ready to go. Not everyone does, and if you're not willing to put the investment into Emperor, you might be better off with a different DP, like damage per turn character instead of him. But if you put the work into him, he is very powerful. Very powerful. Snow, likewise, really, really powerful in the correct party composition and situation. We have the strange abusable things that you can do with him, and I'll be very interested to see what compositions come up with that, and whether Garnet can be somebody that contributes to that, because she does increase the right things for him to do it, and that's something that JP didn't have, so that would be interesting to see. And when I say that he doesn't last into Shinryu era, it's not comfortable. It's not quick and easy. You can make him last, and there are characters he enables, mainly characters like Cloud and Gilgamesh, who don't have brave gains between attacks, that are massively powerful. And the fact that brave gains happen after the final attacks means you also get brave refund and your survivability is better. But in terms of actual tanking, if that is what you want from a BT, you may be better off with Zac. And because Retribution only triggers during his turn, he only counterattacks once no matter how many times the enemy's attacked you before that turn. So if you want damage based on enemy off-turn damage, he's not going to be as good for you as somebody like Galuf, Auron, Gladio, dedicated counter tanks, which Galuf will get an update fairly soon as well, so you may want to look into him. When it comes to Lyse and Balthier, Balthier is a niche character. Absolutely phenomenal when he's within his leash. Pretty useless outside of it. Not because, for any other reason, then there's just other characters you'd rather take in 90% of situations than him, unless he's able to steal buffs and really make use of them. Lyse, she's not especially exciting, but she can do a lot of damage and she does provide defensive benefits to the party, so there's nothing wrong with her. But honestly, I do think that I'd much rather go for her when she gets updated, when Dorgan comes out, which is quite a long time away from now. But am I going to use her now? Probably not. And then going back to Snow, the last thing I will say, and it's not a reason to pull for him if you have Kurosame Call, but he enchants the party for Ice, which is something nice for Canon or FR if that's something you're looking forward to in the future. So that's going to be it from me. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone, in waiting for this video from me. I'm so sorry that it's been delayed. Trust me, when stuff hits the fan, it's scary, especially when content creation is your primary source of income and spanners get thrown in the works, and it can be absolutely terrifying in the moment. But now that it's all done and dealt with, hopefully we can just move on with it, not worry about it anymore, and I will try my absolute hardest to not harp on about it, but I felt it was important to share what had happened because I was very, very upset and very stressed out by it with you guys, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be somebody that's complaining all the time, but equally I want to be able to share my frustrations with my audience so that it's not all, to show that it's not always the best situation, and I hope that people can empathise with that and understand from my perspective as to why this was a pretty heavy week. But like I said, it's dealt with now, and I will try not to bring it up in future. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the characters that have come out of these banners and whether you'll be pulling for them. And I'm just happy that I managed to get this video out before the banner was released, so at least that's something. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notification of the other videos I might be making, and I will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.